When life throws you a curveball, how are you going to handle adversity? Welcome to the Fearless Mindset Podcast, where you're about to go on a journey as I interview security, business, and entertainment leaders on what it takes to stay fearless. I'm your host, Mark Ludlow, and enjoy today's episode.
Now, escorts, they can even be, even though they call them professionals or whatever, are they also being like the high-end escort, like you see in Vegas and all that, and on the flyers on the sidewalk, call this number or this website? Is that very problematic where they're working for somebody else?
So a lot of people believe that Vegas, it's legal. It's not legal in Vegas. There's one county. There's a county. And that's why those individuals are trying to get you in a limo or get you a ride over to that area where that's allowed. And even in that area, and I've been to the Bunny Ranch, even in that area, it isn't where we know that those people want to be doing that in the first place and that they're not also being trafficked. Just because it's legalized in that area doesn't mean anything. So yeah, definitely there's a high demand to try and lure, the buyers to events and to locations, and it's all, unfortunately, what they're doing. So that's why the problem's there.
Wow. But you brought up an interesting point, though, how other countries allow for these websites to go up. And like you said, the internet is open to name public to all around the globe. So any country can allow that website to go up, and there's not much the U.S. can do about it. And that's very worrisome.
If I were to send a search warrant to, one of the escort sites, they don't have to comply because this is the United States and they're not in the United States.
Wow. I never thought about that at all. That makes sense now. Crazy.
But somebody had to do something. So.
Right. What's the average age for somebody being human trafficked to get out? Is it 21, 30, or they kind of wake up and go, I don't want to do this anymore?
Oh, unfortunately, there isn't a getting out of it thing. There is a life expectancy of maybe 7 years for someone that's in it. So I don't know that they ever get out. I've definitely seen that stat. But when we're talking about victims getting in it in the first place, 12 to 14 getting in it. And that's actually lowered since I first started. And so younger and younger kids are getting involved and getting recruited and groomed. But also it isn't where because I had a case involving a woman in her 40s who was a Department of Corrections officer, got fired, worked at a strip club, met the trafficker, and became a victim in her 40s. So it isn't even an age that I can tell you or a certain demographic. And to go with that, I have had, kids that were in child welfare or in and out of foster homes, very poor, impoverished areas. But then I've also had kids who full ride scholarship to a university, parents are doctors, and became a victim. So it isn't a demographic I can, say there either.
Sure.
So, yeah.
Anybody can fall victim to this industry. Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's wild, though. So she was a corrections officer and worked as a stripper at a strip club, and then met her, the guy that groomed her and got her in the industry. That's wild.
There was a lot of drugs involved with that one, but that's another means of control is drugs with traffickers. Not all traffickers, definitely not, because I've had my own traffickers who have recruited me that, didn't want me using drugs, or others that have offered me drugs. So it's, as an undercover.
Yeah, undercover. Make that clarification.
Yeah.
Did you like being undercover? Was that a blast for you, knocking down doors and all that kind of thing? Was that a rush for you?
Yeah, no. I wasn't knocking down the doors.
No, that was SWAT.
I'm the bait. I was the bait. No,
you're the bait.
Definitely, I enjoyed being undercover very much. It unfortunately made me a really good liar. I had to come up with reasons for things and explanations off the cuff, and definitely made me a good liar. But I wouldn't trade what I did for the world because I definitely have had a very rewarding career.
Wow, thanks for your service over there. 'Cause now that we're talking about you kind of broke it down how the correction officer became a stripper, and then I just had a flashback of the movie Taken. I love that movie. And he goes after his daughter and just goes shoots a bunch of people, and I'm like, that's not really how it goes, but
Yeah, that's not really how it goes, but at least that's a movie that brought some highlight to it back then. I was in a documentary. Our unit got filmed for 3 years. Frontline PBS. It came out in May of 2019. It's called Sex Trafficking in America, and it's a really good depiction or an idea of what law enforcement's doing to respond to the problem. You'll see a lot of our undercover work in that movie. I think I've seen definitely there's other documentaries that are coming out more frequently. There's some survivor documentaries that are really important for people to see. I think there's one on Stars right now.
Okay.
I forget the name of it.
That's pretty cool. And was that kind of a Netflix documentary, or was that on syndicated cable too? Or what was? Because I remember seeing something about that.
Yeah, it was Frontline PBS. So I guess Frontline is one of those documentary type publications.
Okay.
Yeah.
So they had a whole film crew while you guys were working, doing your work on your shift.
Yeah, for 3 years. Yeah.
Dang.
The reason it took so long is because they actually followed a case. And so that's a good example of it took 3 years for this case with this juvenile to go to the point where they took a plea. And that's really also a problem. Why did that take so long? That victim went through so many times of showing up to court, and then it was canceled or continued, or they needed more info, or, and every time they have to go down there to sit in the courtroom and wait, that's really something that we need to work on, that we don't put our victims through all that.
Wow. Did you get film credits on that too? Or do they kind of keep that private for your own protection on that film?
I think I'm sure I mentioned in it. I think our names are mentioned in it.
Okay.
But yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I've been an undercover for a long time, so I get recognized. I do things to change up what I look like, so you'll see me in the movie with wigs on.
Nice. Okay.
Yeah, because I get recognized, because I've been doing this for a long time. Mm-hmm. But definitely, it's a good depiction of the reality of the whole problem.
So you train in MMA and mixed martial arts every day, right? You're on your own bodyguard.
Yeah, defensive tactics.
You hang out with Dana White and Frank Mir.
Yeah.
Defensive tactics. But the audience might be curious, have you ever had your life threatened by a human trafficker? I'm sure you run into that in 25 years.
So I've definitely I had one trafficker I put away for 20 years do a public records request for my personnel file. Obviously they redact out my address, but unfortunately all of our information is out there if you just Google a person. And so there are other organizations that actually help first responders remove their information from the internet because of those things. But definitely I got a lot of enemies.
I'm sure.
Yeah. In prison, I got a lot of people who don't like me, but that's okay.
That's why they give you a retired badge with a gun to protect yourself if and when they get out.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
The crazy role with those criminals.
Yeah, definitely.
They keep that personal, and then I worked on a case in Southern California. It was a cartel that was in with a certain Indian tribe. I'll leave it at that. And they had the top gang members were in Pelican Bay prison, locked up, and they did they call it green light of the principal that we're protecting, which means they had a contract hit for that person. And they have more power when they get in those prisons. It's crazy how it works in the underworld of the gangs. And did you have much experience with that too?
Well, I have experience with traffickers that have been put in prison or jail awaiting trial, and they're still trafficking. They're still doing it from in custody. And that's where
that's crazy.
Yeah. Well, it's a dynamic, like I said, where some of their family members are also benefiting and depending on that income, and also their children. And so, it doesn't stop just because they're in jail. And that's a whole other problem. I've also got a lot of traffickers that I've arrested multiple times over the years. Like I had one that I've had contact with for 3 times over, the course of 15 years. Why am I having contact with you, rearresting you for the same thing? The reform and changing them in prison isn't happening either. And they're going right back out to what they were doing before.
Wow.
Which is crazy because you just spent 10 years in prison and you go right back out. And, 6 days after getting released, here you are trying to recruit me to go be your prostitute again.
Nuts. Just nuts.
Yeah.
Because the way TV and movies depict it, once they go in prison, they get more power. They get their ranking, like almost like a military type thing.
I don't know what that dynamic is. I do know that traffickers are already by nature leaders, or they think they are. And so it would be my, evaluation that's something that they bring with them to dominate other people, just like they were dominating their victims. So I think that's a natural thing that they would do. Definitely.
So a domination type of a tactic in their personality to control their environment.
Yeah. I laugh because horoscope is something that a lot of bad guys, and so that's an undercover thing for me is horoscope. And a lot of traffickers I've arrested are Capricorns, and I'm a Capricorn also.
Really? Wow. What a trip.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. I'm like, because we're boss people.
We're boss people. We like boss people around.
Yeah. Yeah.
What a concept, though.
Yeah.
Are most human traffickers, are they kind of narcissistic personality traits too?
Yeah, I would definitely agree with that. Yeah.
Dang. So they fall in one spectrum, the personality profile in that aspect. And they probably have to be really good with money too.
Well, I don't know if they're good with money because I've had traffickers blow through money like you wouldn't believe.
Oh, really? Like millions of dollars in a day?
I don't even know where it all goes.
Dang.
Yeah. Or a lot of it is funny money, and they're, showing stacks of dollar bills on their Facebooks and their, Instagram posts, and they really don't have that money. But it's perception is reality for, some people.
How much? Here's a question that the audience probably wants to know is how much do a trafficker make in one day? That's a good trafficker.
So there's an evaluation of if you have one trafficker with 3 girls, let's say, and they all have a quota. They can't come back to the hotel room, like a quota, meaning you have to make a certain amount of money before you come back to the hotel room to shower, to change clothes, to eat, and so that's all that's all part of that control to give them motivation to get that money fast so that they can go rest, or get that money fast so they can get something to eat or shower or change. And so 3 girls, $1,000 a day, $3,000 a day. Add that up, all tax-free. Potentially they can make a lot of money. Definitely with that evolution of law enforcement, the, crimes have expanded that we go after them for. We're going after them for money laundering and illegal enterprise. Mm-hmm. And so we're seizing bank accounts, we're seizing cars, we're seizing Gucci purses and big P diamond necklaces and houses and all those things because those are all illegal gains that purchase those things. So that's definitely something they were also doing that we weren't doing before. And so that kind of makes more of an impact in their life.
You squeeze that cash flow away from them and they start freaking out and they don't know what to do.
Yeah. That's the idea.
Wow. So they can make $3,000 a day on average.
That's just 3 victims. There's traffickers that have more victims than that.
That's wild to me. That's wild. And the audience is probably thinking, holy cow, they're making a ton of money just off of using a human being and manipulating them and threatening their life. And I heard stories where some of these pimps, they have kids, babies with these girls, and it's like, and so the girls are getting leveraged that way too with their kids, having their kids taken away if they don't do what they want to do.
Well, I've had, speaking of leverage, I've had a trafficker call Department of Child Safety on their victim that they're exploiting, got the baby taken away, and then told them, if you make me this certain amount of money, I'll help you get the baby back. And it's their own kid.
What?
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a manipulation to the max.
Yeah, definitely. It's a no wonder that victims are scared to come forward. And that's another thing that people don't realize is all these numbers you Google, people are putting out stats. There is no way to put a number on how many victims there are out there. I mean, there are victims that haven't come forward yet that we don't know about. And that number, I wouldn't even guess. I wouldn't try to guess how many that is.
Probably depressing just thinking about it.
Yeah.
And then as Arizona gets bigger, not just Phoenix, Arizona for the Super Bowl, but this is going on globally. I mean, around the world it happens. And watching the movie Taken, watching Elon, whatever his name is, the main character there. But, you have world leaders that are involved with this too. They're spending millions of dollars for high-end human trafficking, I'm guessing.
Yeah, there's definitely, I'm sure, areas of trafficking that we're not even in because of the high price tag.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't, how we used to have, the mafia, the East Coast Mafia, they went over to Vegas. Everybody knows that history of Bugsby starting Vegas and all that. Is it kind of the same way in human trafficking where you have all that kind of cash flow and many organizations have shelter like companies that protect that money for the human traffickers that the feds don't even know about? That probably goes on too.
So a lot of what I know about, and I'm sure that that's definitely also going on, but for the illicit massage parlors, that's where I would recognize that kind of element going on, with a lot of money being funneled through casinos and or other businesses and then back to other countries, and other people from other countries actually controlling that whole scene. That's a federal thing that a bigger law enforcement agency works. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, I've been watching too many El Chapo movies lately on the mind of El Chapo and how the organization works and how they traffic drugs. And now they're realizing, hey, there's more money in trafficking humans now than there is a transaction for coke or crystal meth or whatever. And now they got fentanyl, which is killing everybody. It's just the underworld is just crazy to me. But now you have your retired life and your second career, and you're a professor there. You're a professor, adjunct professor.
So I do teach other law enforcement for the National Criminal Justice Training Center, and I travel around the United States and also do online training. And in my own business, I do law enforcement training as well, teaching them about how to do the undercover operations to get sex buyers and traffickers. So that's definitely what I've got going on, and I love every minute of it.
I bet you're passionate about it and have fun doing it. Now, where can people find you? You have a website and all that type of thing too, right?
Yeah. So achanceforawareness.com. Yes, I'm using my last name. Unintended. achanceforawareness.com. And then Instagram is just a_chance_for_awareness. And that's, I post a lot there, specific reactions to things like that TikTok, that we, witnessed earlier. And, for your audience, it was a TikTok that I was asking for people to help report because there was an individual promoting the street track area for street prostitution in Phoenix and kind of, inciting fans from the football games to go to that area to find prostitutes. And that's inappropriate and not okay. So
good job. I saw that.
Yeah.
I'll share that before the weekend hits, because I think the Super Bowl, they already started the party over there, right? Everybody's getting wrapped up over there.
Yeah. Downtown is alive for sure. And also Glendale area too. Mm-hmm.
Blowing up. Everybody's coming from all over the world.
Yeah. It's a big event, and it's one of those things that's unfortunate that it gets brought down by this activity, and that's why law enforcement's responding to it.
Exactly. And for the audience listening, we'll have Heidi's stuff on YouTube, and we'll be my team will be putting that all together so you can find her on YouTube as well, and then we'll do it on LinkedIn when we publish this. We're gonna try and publish this before the Super Bowl, but my team they got other podcast guests that they are managing as well, so we'll get that pushed out as soon as we're able to.
That's all right. The problem will still be here.
It's not going anywhere. So, what are your hobbies that you had such an intense life in law enforcement? Do you go golfing like many others in Phoenix, Arizona, or do you go hang out in the desert and shoot stuff?
No, and I'm a cop that doesn't drink coffee either.
How did that work out?
I don't know. As far as hobbies, just hanging out with family, going on trips, traveling, those kind of things. Yeah.
The travel bug, many trips to Mexico.
No,
you don't go to Mexico either.
Yes, but
Okay.
no, definitely traveling, trying to visit areas of the United States I haven't been to. Out of the country traveling, just not Mexico.
Just not Mexico. What's your favorite country to visit nowadays that you've been traveling now?
Obviously the Bahamas area, and that's all personal, not, any outreach or any training or anything, but most of the training I'm doing is in the United States.
Oh, there you go. Okay.
Yeah.
Do you have?
I would love to go, to Canada or, to other countries. That would be amazing.
Canada. Do you have have you been to overseas yet, like the Middle East yet, or Israel, or?
No.
Okay.
I guess bucket list.
Your bucket list. You gotta fill that thing up.
Yeah.
So any advice to our military folks that might be listening, or law enforcement folks getting out of law enforcement, transitioning, that trying to find something to do? Maybe we have some female police officers that are listening to this. Any advice for them getting into what you do, or how to transition out of law enforcement?
So two parts to your question.
Okay.
As far as, female officers that might be wanting to become an undercover, don't be posting inappropriate images on social media. Unfortunately, there's, this young crowd that's, selfies in the mirror with my police uniform and then another selfie in lingerie. And the reason why I say that, and you're a good girl and everybody knows it and it's okay, but the thing I'm saying that about is because defense attorneys can also get that information. And if you want yourself depicted in lingerie to be shown to a court with a judge and the defendant in a trial, then I guess by all means continue that behavior. But if you don't, I would suggest taking that down and being more professional and responsible. Unfortunately, when you become a police officer, it is your entire life, your entire world. And you're told when you start, you're going to lose friends because you can't keep those friends anymore if they're doing bad things. They're committing crimes, if they're drug dealers. You can't keep those friends anymore. Same goes with social media. You need to be professional there too. You can get in trouble, as well as everything's open. The defense attorneys can get a hold of it. And even for a misdemeanor, when you're trying to get a sex buyer, for his crime, you don't need a defense attorney to start bringing up your Facebook page in court. So, be responsible with that. As far as people transitioning, the second part of your question, out of law enforcement or whatever, I think LinkedIn is an amazing resource. LinkedIn is where, we met. LinkedIn is definitely, where you're going to, get other job opportunities, meet other, potential employers, all of those things. So making your LinkedIn profile and your presence on LinkedIn, I think is super important for anyone actually that's transitioning from one career to the next.
Yeah, for me, I know when I started my LinkedIn thing, 2 years ago, before I even had a podcast, I think I only had 2,000 followers.
Oh,
and now it's like with the podcast, that I'm blown up. How has it helped you in, your business and all that? Has it really put you on a different platform?
Yeah, it's definitely helped me with getting, I'm trying to accomplish outreach to other law enforcement agencies to get them excited about doing undercover operations, because, there's agencies that have never even gone after traffickers or sex buyers in their community. And, they may be a small police department. They might only have, one or two female officers, but I just coached another agency in Pennsylvania, and they had, female officers from other counties next to them, and they're doing a joint operation. And that's, the whole idea is all get together, all combat the problem. You can do it in each little county if you need, all together, and everybody get the bang for their buck, and also combat the problem and create that fear for the sex buyers that they can't go there anymore because they might get caught.
You don't want to get caught.
Yeah, I would hope not.
But you brought up an interesting point though with the young law enforcement folks getting in law enforcement now. How they're posting very modeling pictures, and then they have pictures of the uniform, and that they're trying to put someone away. That defense attorney is going to come after them with the gloves off, and they're going to go after you.
That should be something that you already are thinking about. Getting into law enforcement is we're raised at a higher standard, and it's professional at all times, and that is not at that standard, that behavior.
Right.
And, and I'm only saying it, not to talk bad about anything, but to protect yourself, because I don't want defense attorneys to be able to make us look bad. Good
point. And I don't think people think about that. They just think about the here and the now.
Well, I've had to coach a couple female officers.
Have you? Over time.
I wanted to work undercover with us. I'm like, oh.
You got to clean this stuff up.
As a senior female undercover officer,
right.
I need to do a lesson. Yeah.
I mean, what's the biggest trait female officers have being law enforcement officers? I think it's communication, but there are probably many other things they're good at too.
Their strength?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, I think their communication and their ability to, think on their feet as far as, reading people and seeing what's about to happen, seeing through lies. I mean, women have that intuition, that mother's intuition, or whatever you want to call it. So
absolutely
use it.
Use it. Exactly.
Yeah.
They seem to be able to diffuse situations. I've seen, my time, what I experienced, they're really good at diffusing a heated discussion. They're I don't know, they have that just natural way of putting themselves in position. They just almost take the air out of the balloon really quick.
Yes, definitely. Yep, absolutely.
Definitely a secret weapon. But yeah, any parting words to the audience you have, Heidi? Like any ideas, suggestions, words of encouragement to the audience that might be listening to this?
Yeah. So definitely all we can do and all we've talked about this whole time is education and getting to know what the problem is, making yourself more aware, recognizing the signs, learning about prevention, and then where to report. And we really didn't cover that yet, but basically there's a national human trafficking hotline. You can call it, you can text message it. I believe it's in several different languages if you need. And then local law enforcement always. If it's a problem happening right now, that would be 911. And that's what 911 is for. And I'm not sure where people, are worried about calling 911 and don't want to bother them. But that's what that's for as far as, reporting and actually reporting. Just like you go through the airport and you're constantly over the loudspeaker saying, if you see something, say something. If it's an unattended bag, report it. Same thing with this. If you see something that looks suspicious, we'll figure it out. If it is, if it isn't, at least we tried. At least we, made an impression. At least we identified these people in case later on, they are found to be doing trafficking. All of those things are only going to happen if people call and people report it. So.
Yeah, I see those signs all over the airport bathrooms now. They're everywhere. So whoever did that, good job.
Yeah, that's definitely some initiatives from lots of different states. Yeah.
And if you want to look at Heidi, you can find her on LinkedIn, and then we'll publish her website information on YouTube as well. And then when I do the LinkedIn post, we'll have probably a YouTube short. We call it YouTube Shorts, and my team will put a little video clip on the highlights of the point of the podcast that we're doing today. And how many cases did you sit on in human trafficking? I know, Stan said you sat on a lot of cases.
Oh, I don't even know. It was, obviously over the course of 14 years. So
quite a few.
It's one of those where I'm also doing consulting or subject matter expert witness testimony. So if there's an investigation involving a trafficker and they want to bring in a blind witness to kind of explain what trafficking is, I'm being called to do that frequently also. So that's, another good thing that I've got going on. But definitely, putting traffickers away for hundreds of years is where we're at now, and that's good. And we need to get that word out there more so that traffickers, hear that, and it's a deterrent, and maybe they change career paths and do something different, because that's their fate.
That is their fate. Exactly.
Yeah.
Much deserved for what they did and destroying human lives. And folks listening to this, if you could give us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts or any podcast platform you listen to, that would help our rating system. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. And please follow Heidi on LinkedIn. And please check out her website as well. And check out her curriculum that she mentioned online as well. And thanks for tuning in, folks, and listening to Heidi's story on what that evil world is like over there in the human trafficking world, because it affects everybody. It affects everybody around the world. And I hate to say it, but your own neighborhood too. You just don't know about it. So thanks for tuning in, everybody. And we want to thank Heidi for her time on the show. She's very busy, living her second career and impacting the world and helping people who do not have a voice. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you on the next episode of the Fearless Mindset Podcast.